I'd also like to introduce the other PSDA board members here with us today for those in the virtual audience. We have Vice Chair Richard Bennett. We have Josh Shulman. We have Danny Sarecki. We have Jeff Gow, and Keith is not here yet.
Keith is not here, right?
Okay. First item is public comment. Clarissa, can you tell me if there are any members of the public in the lobby who wish to speak?
There's no one in the lobby for public comment and no written public comments.
Okay, thank you, Clarissa. Okay, next we'll move to the action item.
I'll move that we approve the January 20th minutes.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Our next item is very important. The contractors that PSDA chooses are really true partners with the organization. So I'm very, very proud of the work PSDA has done over the past several months to get us here. And I look forward to the presentation. Brad, can you kick it off?
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone here at PSBA and on the Zoom. We have a number of folks joining us on the Zoom screen that we'll introduce during this presentation because it's a really big contract. In fact, it's very vivid in my memory. My very first meeting at PSTA, just under 10 years ago, in this room was the meeting when we awarded the contract for our paratransit. Then, and this room was jam-packed with people, with people in wheelchairs and little old ladies and other people very, very passionate about this service. Then I remember 5 years later, when we awarded this contract again, the room was packed. And although it's not very packed today, we know this is so important to what we're doing. If you can go to the next slide, Julie. The next slide. So the recommendation before the Finance Committee today and then ultimately to the PSA Board next week is to award 2 contracts, one with a international company called First Transit. First Transit will provide the vans, the wheelchair accessible vans, and most of the service. And then a second contract with a company called Bay Area Metro, which is otherwise known to us in Pinellas County as United Taxi and Clearwater Yellow Cab. Together, that's called Bay Area Metro. Next slide. So why are we here today? Why are we doing this today? Actually, it's only 4 years after the contract is over. The reason is, as the Finance Committee, I think, knows, that CareRide, our longtime partner who provided this service, their parent company, BayCare Health System, BayCare told us a year ago that they wanted to get out of the transportation business and they were putting CareRide up for sale. They tried to sell it over the fall. That was, I don't think, successful. And so CareRide will, very unfortunately, be shutting its doors for good on July 1. We were able to get an extension so that they wouldn't shut it so quickly, so we had time to do the procurement that we're now presenting to the Finance Committee today. I'm very excited of how far we've come and to be able to present this to you. If you look on the right-hand side of my PowerPoint slide, you can see the kind of wheelchair accessible vans that we've provided for a long time. There's another big change that's coming that I think is an important change. It's more than just a sticker on the side of the vehicles. It's actually something that Commissioner Schulman has been asking me about for a while. As is going to be presented to you in the presentation, we're moving to a new era where instead of a one-size-fits-all kind of care ride is the only game in town system, as the committee knows, we're moving to a new mobility, being a more mobility manager of a lot of different services, of Uber and Lyft and taxis, and the vehicles will now have the PSTA logo on the side. It'll be branded to the customer as a PSTA provided service, no longer a separate thing that a lot of people probably didn't even know was PSTA. Now it will be PSTA. As the Finance Committee knows, usually when we present contracts, first the subject matter expert, the manager in charge of whatever we're buying, talks about what we're buying, and then Al Burns, our great procurement director, he finishes the presentation. But I'm switching the order today because, as I told Al, he's like the Tom Brady of our team. Al does a fantastic job with procurements, and he hit it out of the park, or threw a touchdown pass on this procurement, got really great competition. I'm going to have him go first, and then after he goes, then some other great superstars on the PSTA team, James Bradford, Debbie Leas, and of course the leader of the mobility program, Bonnie Epstein, are gonna present some of this. So Tom Brady, take it away.
Thank you, Brad. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Al Burns, your highly motivated procurement director for PSTA. The first slide I'd like to do is go over the procurement process. On this, you'll notice that we have a 5-year base with one 5-year option for a total of 10 years. A 5-year base with one 5-year option for a total of 10 years. This is the longest contract that PSTA has. The reason we decided to do it for 10 years is specifically to cover the capital costs of our contractors. This allows the contractors to amortize or get his return on investment in the first 5 years. And with my boss, Debbie Leas, that saves us money. Additionally, real expenses will be managed by Bonnie Epstein and the MOD team. You'll notice 3 letters in blue, NTE. That stands for not to exceed. NTE, not to exceed. In other words, the first transit contract will not go over $101 million, and the Bay Area Metro contract will not exceed $12 million. If staff notices that we're coming close to exceeding those numbers, we'll do like we always do, Mr. Chair, and bring that to the Finance Committee and ask for additional monies to be put on the contract. Next slide, please. This morning, as Brad said, we have 2 contracts we're bringing before you. But there's 2 types of service that this contract offers our customers. We offer ambulatory rides, which equates to over 175,000 trips a year. And we offer wheelchair rides, which is approximately 120,000 trips per year. Bay Area Metro, on this slide, you see named United Taxi and Yellow Cab. They will be providing 30% of the ambulatory rides with their contract. The other contract goes to is for First Transit, and they will be providing 100% of the wheelchair rides and 70% of the ambulatory rides. On this slide, you'll notice USERV is underneath First Transit. USERV, it will act as a subcontractor for First Transit in providing ambulatory trips. One important note to mention, Mr. Chair, is that USERV has the same business model as Lyft and Uber. Mr. Chair, you also know that I'm also serve as the DBELO, and I'm pleased to inform you that First Transit has made a DBE commitment of 2.78%, which has a value of over $3 million for this contract. One of the things we realized during this procurement process is the importance of the track committee. So we invited track members, Gloria and Kim, to participate in the selection process. As you know, Mr. Chair, you monitor the procurement process, and the reason we wanted you to monitor it is because of your extensive experience in paratransit operations. At this time, I would like to invite Gloria and Kim, followed by you, Mr. Chair, to make any remarks. Gloria?
Okay, I'm unmuted. Hi, good morning, everyone. I have said to everyone, I was so impressed with how thorough the evaluation was, how totally fair and intelligent the evaluation was. And I was so pleased as a user to be asked my point of view. And we always kept speaking of the importance of customer service and customer, the image to the customers. And so I'm very pleased with the ultimate choice that was made, and I hope that that this all goes well, forward very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Kim, do you have any remarks?
Yes, I just want to say I'm extremely grateful that PST offers paratransit service to the disabled within our community. I've been a client of the service since 2003. I've witnessed the best and the worst of the service throughout the years. I was honored when Al asked me to assist him and his team in identifying a new paratransit contractor. Thanks, Al. And after months of research, I feel that PSTA has identified the best paratransit contractors within our community.
Thank you, Kim.
Do I have the floor?
Yes, you do.
Okay, thank you, Al. TB12, Al. What I would like to add to what Gloria and Kim said was that when I first learned that we were trained, that essentially Baycare was dropping out of this, and I wanted to get involved because I wanted to make sure that what we did going on was treat our customers with dignity, with timeliness, and plus be fiscally responsible. So, Brad, you allowed me and Mr. Bradford to attend our first meeting with Kent, who was a consultant for us redoing our method of applications for paratransit. And I'm so pleased to say that it's now changed and it's working, all right? That again, we're vetting out folks that should not be using ADA door-to-door service, and we're just making sure that we're doing this the correct way. And then moving on, I also share their sentiments too, that I believe this is a good way for PSTA to go. One of the reasons are both companies will have local management, meaning First Transit essentially has the management team of Care Ride coming in, so will help to make a seamless transfer, number one. And number two, with a Yellow Cab, they again are a local company. They've committed to use new vehicles and dedicate them to their 30% of the ambulatory rides. So all that being said is I would have a couple of questions for Mr. Pettit-Gerard and for Mr. Canvas. Should that wait, or may I do it right now?
Maybe we hold off until
Okay.
the questions at the
Okay,
end.
thank you.
But yeah.
I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This morning, I've invited our new partners. Bay Area Metro team, headed by Nick Canvas, the president, and Michael Dean, Vice President of Operations.
Morning.
This morning, we have the First Transit Team, headed by Russ T. Skeeter, Regional Vice President, James Kaufman, Director of Business Development, and the hometown local favorite, Mr. John Pettis-Gerard. Vu, at this time, can you show our new partners?
Yes, I did.
Thank you, partners. Both providers, CareRide and Bay Area Metro, are bringing majority of the drivers and staff from CareRide. What this means for our customers, this means virtually no change in service quality, and it benefits the community tremendously. Next slide, please. Fair and reasonable. We've done a lot of analysis on the pricing submitted. I did a quick count yesterday, and we've had over 20 meetings in regard to this contract. But I know what I don't know, Mr. Chair. So I developed a finance task force. I love that word, finance task force. The task force consisted of David Yoder, contracting officer for this contract, Michael Hansen, Director of Finance, Nick Sagan, Budget Analyst, and my boss and our CFO, Ms. Debbie Leas. Without this finance task force, there's no way we could have crunched all of these numbers. The reason I did this was to make sure that the pricing we received is fair and reasonable. If you look over at the chart on the right, I know it's hard to read, but we went through line item by line item of the cost, IT, vehicles, fuel, profit, overhead. And Commissioner Schulman, you'll be pleased to know that in your packet is the detail of everything that we negotiated throughout this process.
I'm looking at it
Mr. Chair, I'm so pleased as the procurement director this morning to inform you that the pricing that we have received is fair and reasonable. But I did not do this alone. Like Brad said, I'm the GOAT from a procurement perspective and the quarterback of this team. But I had a tremendous line, a tremendous offensive line. And the best person on the offensive line is the left tackle. And my left tackle, better known to you as our chief operating, Mr. James Bradford, will now show you exactly how we reduced the cost by over $17 million. Mr. Bradford?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Julie, next slide, please. Good morning, James Bradford, Chief Operating Officer. As Al noted, prices were coming in as fair and reasonable, right? That's what we were told. We were told this by our subject matter experts, our consultants, that, hey, they're within range that other agencies are paying. But for us, it wasn't affordable. The initial numbers that were coming in were not affordable, millions of dollars more than what we had been paying for our service. So we still needed to find savings. But having said that, we also understand we can't have another provider go bankrupt. We can't have another provider in the middle of a contract say, we can't do this anymore for what you're paying us. So like you see in the picture there with Ed Harris and the Apollo 13 team, we PSDA were on a mission. And we had to modify that mission in order to bring things sustainably home. Now, we had over 8 negotiating sessions with the contractors to try to meet in the middle, each side sacrificing a bit for the greater good, trying to find that sweet spot. And we understand that, they would have a business to run, but we also need to have a service that's affordable and sustainable to meet our needs. So we found cost reductions in the form of changes to the scope of work in the contract. Now, we didn't sacrifice all the things or any of the things that are going to keep our customers satisfied. Customers and our PSA access folks are our number one priority. But you have to understand, for every bit of additional risk a contractor has to take on for unknown numbers that could fluctuate, PSA pays a premium. So our strategy to try to bring these initial numbers down literally by millions were to get creative. Things like how do we spread out the cost of new vehicles? The provider has to buy brand new vehicles. They have startup costs coming into this area, facilities. So we started to spread those out, amortize those over the years of the contract. We're also going to buy the fuel in a volatile fuel market. We PSA believe we can control those costs better. So there's a potential for savings. We had always billed or had been billed cost per trip. Now, coming off of a pandemic where the numbers are kind of going up and down, if you're coming into this, the numbers are going to be a little bit aggressive because you don't know, especially if you're first or your Bay Area Metro, what you're going to get. So we converted that to a cost per hour. Now they can better predict and budget their cost. And that puts the onus on us to make sure that we schedule efficiently and that we are more hands-on to take the responsibilities for things that we can't control. As Al mentioned, this has been vetted by our track members yesterday. Gloria and Kim, thank you so much, who've made remarks here today. Bay Area Metro recognizes that PSTA wants our relationship with on-demand taxi service to be top-notch. And Bay Area Metro came in and said, yes, we can be who you need us to be. We will train drivers to be custom to this service. We will dedicate fleet vehicles to get you what you need. So Bay Area Metro specifically designed their proposal to respond to many of the challenges and challenges that have plagued us in the past with missed trips and deficient vehicles and that type of thing. And PSTA and Bay Area Metro both have learned from the evolution of our mobility programs how to make taxis a premium service in many respects where the customers love them and adapt to them because it gives them more flexibility, their service right away. So Chair, and to our finance committee, and to all of our PSTA access customers, you have my commitment, and I know you have Bay Area Metro's and First Transit's commitment that these services will not be substandard, but they will be the same high quality as the rest of our services that PSA provides. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my esteemed colleague, Debbie Leas, our Chief Financial Officer, to explain just how these projected costs that we ended up with will fit into our longer-term budget projections. Julie, if you'll prepare that next slide for Miss Debbie, please. Thank you.
And thank you, James. I'm shifting to hockey since James took the better position of the left tackle. And I'm going to concur with what has been negotiated is sustainable because we saw it coming. Much like Wayne Gretzky that I've got pictured here, the greatest hockey player in history, who when asked, why is he so great? He replied, most players skate to where the puck is. I skate to where the puck is going to be. So with the population growing older, ridership increasing, and costs going up, we could see the old way of doing paratransit business was not sustainable. As you heard Brad say, I had to renegotiate the Carrot Ride contract and get board approval to help them survive long enough for us to bring forth new providers all before Care Ride goes out of business on July 1st. So several years ago, in a Gretzky-like move, we knew that the new contracts would have increased costs with increased ridership. And we got ahead of the puck. As Chair Cox had said, we started looking at new eligibility processes and putting those in place. New programs were developed, such as Mobility on Demand. And we set the stage for PSTA to be in control with these cost-saving measures. So I am pleased to say, as the goalie, the hockey goalie, you have to get past me on anything financial, that these new contracts will fit into our long-term plans and our long-term budgets, and we will be fiscally stable with them. And because we've got our great on Hockey Forward and Bonnie Epstein as our Director of Mobility, she would be our running back in football. I am going to pass it to her to talk about what's coming next. Take it away, Bonnie, and next slide, Julie.
Awesome. Thank you, Debbie. Good morning, Finance Committee. So I'd like to go over where we've come from, and as my slide shows, focus on where we're heading for paratransit services in the future. So in the past, prior to 2019, all service for paratransit riders was done by Care Ride. During that time, riders only had one choice for paratransit service and one provider if they wanted to use PSTA services. And that was our regular paratransit service with Care Ride. So beginning in 2019, riders had a new option in addition to the regular paratransit service on Care Ride. PSTA's Mobility on Demand program, where riders call PSTA to get on-demand rides with Lyft, United Taxi, wheelchair transport, with Uber as an option in the near future. So today, about 75% of the trips PSTA provides to our paratransit riders are taken on Care Ride, and 25% of the trips are taken on demand. So in addition to our new partners, First Transit and Bay Area Metro, that we will be bringing on in July this year, PSTA will also be moving the call center from the contractor's responsibility over to PSTA, meaning one phone number for all accessible services, both paratransit and on demand. So we're managing the options that our riders have. We're really moving to being a true mobility manager, the way Brad has been talking about for years. So the key to this mobility manager move will be the software that my team will be using to make reservations for both paratransit and on-demand services, allocate trips to the different providers, and much more. This software procurement is out on the street right now, and you'll be seeing me again very soon with our recommendation. So for the future, we really hope that with our new software and call center structure, that we'll have 50% of the accessible trips taken on paratransit and 50% of the trips taken on demand. With this new model, not only do riders have more options, but PSTA has more control, and the whole operation will be more sustainable. And now I'll pass it back to Brad to summarize this presentation.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. So just to kind of summarize that relatively long presentation, we're here because Baycare decided to close Care Ride, and we have to get a new partner. We're required by the Americans with Disabilities Act to have a contractor, and we have this sort of short timeline of getting somebody up and running and getting all those wheelchair accessible vehicles in place by July 1. Al Burns did a fantastic job in getting great competition, multiple very good proposals, very innovative proposals from national and local providers. First Transit and Bay Area Metro, in my opinion, are definitely ready and are well positioned to make as seamless transition as possible from what has been a fantastic provider at Care Ride. It's probably not going to be perfect, but I think every effort is going to be put in place. They're best poised this summer to have a very smooth transition. And as Al said, First Transit and Bay Area Metro have certainly submitted fair and reasonable proposals. And then finally, as Debbie and Bonnie highlighted, despite the fact that while they are fair and reasonable, they're just definitely a much more than what we had been paying under Care Ride. Because we saw this coming and we created this new mobility framework and new eligibility framework, as Commissioner Cox said, these are sustainable into the future. It's a long contract. We certainly hope, I think we all expect that we're going to beat those not to exceed numbers every year moving forward. So with that, if you want to go to the final slide, Julie. As Bonnie said, we'll be back for another key component to this in probably 2 months to the Finance Committee to purchase the software that will really help us. But for now, today's recommendation is, again, 2 5-year contracts with 1 5-year option for our paratransit service. The first one is with First Transit Incorporated for a total amount not to exceed $101 million over the 10 years. And then the second one is Bay Area Metro for a total amount not to exceed $12 million. For those of you who've been on the Finance Committee, you might know that most of our contracts, we have options, and we do have an option here for the 5 years. And usually our actions recommend giving the CEO authority to exercise the option. In this case, we just thought, since this is such a long contract, we will bring this back before the Finance Committee and board in 5 years, just to go ahead and exercise the option and give an update on how things are going. If they're going great, great. If we have to make a change, we'll make a change at that time. So with that, I'm very proud to make this recommendation and glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll go into some discussion now, all right?
Yeah.
I didn't know if anybody wanted to go first. So, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the work that's been done. I don't want the questions I have to indicate that I don't believe that a lot of effort hasn't been put into to get us to where we are. Just I want to understand things a little bit more clearly. The first question I had was in looking at the spreadsheet that Al included, just for me, I guess. The rides per year are steady throughout the entire contract as far as estimates. Was there a reason why we used a fixed rides per year as opposed to looking at our track record for the service and trying to estimate what the future costs will be based on increasing ridership?
Debbie, do you want to?
Yes.
Respond to that?
Thank you, Commissioner Schulman. Actually, the first year we have rides that are consistent with where we have been in the past, pre-COVID. And when we look to the future, we increased it because we have seen population, older population increasing and ridership increasing. So you'll see a big jump between year 1 and year 2.
Mm-hmm.
But because we are implementing new software, we know that we will be able to bring those numbers significantly down, not only with driving efficiencies, et cetera. So we did take a look at it, and that's sort of our not to exceed number on the ridership level, which is why it stayed flat.
Okay, so there's a sense that other operational efficiencies will keep the ridership numbers in check.
Right.
Absolutely. That is our goal in all of this. We are doing business in a totally different way. Bonnie's group, as Commissioner Cox had brought up, the eligibility process is working. And we're going to be doing more exciting things beyond software in the future. I've got money in the budget for travel training and for accessibility check. I don't know what the word is, ADA accessibility checking, to see what modes of transportation people can actually use. So you're going to be coupling this with a lot of things that we'll be bringing forth in the next probably year or so that are going to keep the number of trips down, and the trips will also be then allocated to the most appropriate trip and the most cost-effective trip for PSTA.
Okay, that's great information to know. I appreciate that. Looking through the spreadsheet, there was also a line item for subcontractor services, which is a pretty hefty, significant part of the overall budget. What do those represent?
Good morning, Commissioner Schulman, Al Burns. That represents the DBE commitment, the DBE commitment by First Transit. First Transit has a DBE that's located in the state of Florida, and the purpose of that DBE is to clean the vehicles, to fuel the vehicles there on their site, and then I think there's another DBE. Well, I know there's another DBE that provides the uniform service for the contractor as well.
Al? Actually, I think the number that Commissioner Schulman is looking at, the really big number in the First Transit proposal, is their subcontract with User. Remember, they are going to be providing all of the wheelchair accessible rides and some of the sedan rides, but the vast majority are going to be subcontracted to another company called User under their proposal. That's why that number is so big, because it's a major part of their whole proposal.
Okay.
All right, Brett.
Thank you, but also Al, thank you for the additional information on the DBE area as well. Are they providing the vehicles? And if so, how are they being procured? Or do they already have the vehicles?
First Transit is providing the vehicles. I turn to Mr. Russ, to you, to how you guys are going about that.
Sure. Thank you, Al. Thanks for having us today. I appreciate your time and look forward to being your partner. Again, my name is Russ Teescar. I'm the Regional Vice President for First Transit. We have several vendors that we use to procure vehicles, and we have national contracts and use our buying power that we have throughout the United States and Canada to procure vehicles. So we do leverage those contracts we have to procure that fleet.
Okay, so the depreciation, the vehicle depreciation line items are our attempt to help amortize that over, to help pay for that over time versus anything upfront.
That is correct, sir.
Okay. One thing that actually, Brad, you mentioned, you said that according to the ADA, we are required to have a contractor. Are we required to have a contractor or required to have the services?
We're required to have the services to provide an ADA complimentary paratransit.
Okay.
Right.
Was there anything, anything done to look to see about doing that, you know, providing the service in-house?
Yes, I mean, in my experience, I don't know the exact numbers, but across the country, I think probably about half cities run it with their own employees and half contract out like PSTA. PSTA has, for a very long time, contracted it out. It was really, we looked at the possibility, but we just didn't think it was feasible, given the hard and fast deadline of July 1 that CareRide is going under. So that's why we did the procurement.
Okay. And you spoke a little bit to the 1 5-year option, but I also, looking at the agreement, it's also a non-exclusive contract. So, you know, as we move forward, if we feel a need to bring on other providers, there's no requirement that we don't have a fixed cost guarantee per year?
Correct, Commissioner Shulman. There is no guarantee for this contract. The only guarantee that we have is that these are our two partners. However, in the contract that, with the help of BMO that I drafted, we have to make provisions that if the contractor goes out of business or something happens, that we have the flexibility to make adjustments as needed, i.e. bring somebody else in.
Okay. Yeah, and obviously, like most agreements, especially given one this size, you go in with the anticipation and the hope that everything will work out well, but you plan for it not, so that there's you know, proper exits along the way, especially given the length. So
and that's also one of the reasons why the ridership numbers are kind of held static up there, is because that's the problem that we got into with CareRide, where the ridership ballooned more than they had the vehicles or the drivers or anything to handle. And so we're kind of trying to be conservative with our ridership estimates. But like you say, 10 years is a long time. We don't know what's going to happen.
So thank you for those. That was actually my final question, but I did have one comment, and I appreciate the fact that they're going to be PSTA branded. It has been something since I first showed up at the board. I couldn't understand why CareRide didn't indicate to the public that it was a PSTA service provided by their tax dollars and their transit agency. And so I think it'll help increase the awareness for non-paratransit, non-transit riders of the value that PSTA brings to the overall community as well, and that is invaluable. So, thank you.
Josh, thank you so much for those great questions. Do we have anyone else? Dan?
Mr. Chair, I have one question.
Could you I got to put you on, right? There you go.
Deb, I have one question. I don't see this in my report. I'm trying to find it. Is there a payment structure plan of how this massive amount of money is going to be paid in the first 5 years?
That's a very good question, Commissioner Saraki. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
The answer to that question is First Transit will be invoicing us once a month, but the invoice will have two elements to it. One element will be for the fixed cost, and then the other element will be for the per trip. The fixed cost element should remain flat, is scheduled to remain flat over the initial 5 years. And then the per trip, the trip model will fluctuate depending on how many rides and how many trips per month. So there'll be one invoice. It'll have two elements. One will be for the fixed cost, and then that packet, you'll see what we call fixed and variable on the spreadsheet. That fixed cost, and then the variable cost, that will be the other part of the invoice. I hope that answers your question.
Can you tell me what that fixed cost per month is? Do we have that?
I think it's like 275K a month in fixed costs.
275K?
Something like that. Debbie, I don't know. Debbie, you might know.
It just disappeared on you. Nope. Let's see.
And just to correct one thing Al said, the variable will be billed by hour of service that they provide for the wheelchair part, for the wheelchair part.
Commissioner Saraki, I believe the amount is $273,000 a month.
Yes.
For the first year.
Okay.
And and every year afterward it adjusts, but for the first initial year, the fixed cost price is $273,000 approximately.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question is, all the vehicles, as Josh Schuman said with the PSTA logo, are they gonna be all new vehicles?
I know on the first transit proposal that all the vehicles on the first transit proposal are all new. I'll look for a thumbs up from Mr. Canvas, and the dedicated fleet from Bay Area Metro will also be all new vehicles as well. Isn't that correct, Nick? Yes, sir. Both providers will be providing brand new vehicles, sir.
Thank you so much, guys. Great job on this presentation. Appreciate all your hard work. Thank you so much. Al Burns, I'm glad you're motivated.
Well, anyone else? Richard? Go ahead.
No, I don't have any.
question. Hey, Jeff?
Push chair, press the button.
As my colleague was questioning the cost of it, when it comes to the variable cost, is this a program that's free to the ridership and PSTA covers that per hour cost? I'm looking at the fair and reasonable update slide where it says PSTA and it's the ambulatory wheelchair.
Normally no, there's a fare, just like all of our services. It's $4.50 a ride for the service normally. Now, during the pandemic, we are not charging fare on the fixed route bus because people are getting on the back door to keep social distancing going, and so therefore we are required by federal law not to charge a fare on this either. So right now, during the pandemic, it's no cost, but normally, yes, there is $4.50 coming from the customer that comes to PSTA.
Okay, thank you. And just because this whole thing came about because we had a partner that could no longer afford to continue the contract. And so we were we had a short time frame, and the presentation, the research, everything has been fantastic. But even it was acknowledged that even the thought of bringing it in-house, we didn't have the time to really investigate that. And so I'm questioning whether or not for this whole process to lock into a 2 5-year contract or 1 10-year contract, however we want to look at this, whether the contract term is actually too long. There might be other services out there, or we might be able to provide it in-house that this is going to preclude us from looking at for at least 10 years.
Well, I would say, and it was a question that I think Commissioner Schulman asked, as Al noted, there's nothing prohibiting, this is not an exclusive contract. Neither of these are exclusive contracts. We can look at providing some of the trips in-house. And the length of period, this is the longest contract PSTA has signed. The idea behind a 10-year agreement is that those upfront capital costs of the facility and the vehicles and all those new vans can be spread out of over 10 years rather than 5. And that saves us money. That saves PSTA money. And, but nothing precludes us from looking into it. And I would say it would be easier for us to kind of wade into providing it ourselves over time, providing some of the trips you know, on incremental basis maybe, rather than getting all the vehicles somehow by July 1 and getting going. I think that would be too difficult for our agency to do, but over a period of time, perhaps, you know, we have a great example right across the bay at Hart. They operate with their own employees, unionized employees, and they have the vehicles and everything for their paratransit over there. Now, in Pinellas, we provide about 50% more rides than Hillsborough County does. Somewhat due to our age of our population and also just the quality of service and things. So there's a lot, it's a big program. It would be a big lift for the agency to suddenly take that over. So we're happy that we have these contracts.
Okay, great. Thank you, that was all.
Go ahead, Mr. Shaw.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. One more question. If we do decide to, you know, end the contract at the end of 5 years, let's say, we decide not to take any of the options, is there a balloon amortization of the remaining depreciation for the vehicles? Do we know?
Debbie?
The answer to that is no, sir.
No.
Okay. And well, actually, I lied. I have one extra question. Sure. The vehicles that are being procured, how do they fit into our environmental sustainability view of vehicles?
Excellent question.
You know, because I know Carride had Priuses and some other things. What kind of vehicles are we looking at?
James, or Jim, excuse me, Mr. Kaufman, do you think you could speak to that, you or Russ, the type of vehicles and the sustainability effort that First Transit, and then also Nick, if you could speak to the sustainability element from your vehicle, sir?
Thank you. That was going to be one of my questions, actually, to Russ, about the type of vehicle that they'll be using for the wheelchair transportation. What do you have in mind, and how many for the wheelchair portion of this proposal?
Hold on, I'm trying to bring it up real quick. Jim, I'm not sure if you have it offhand. I thought I had it up here, and I guess I don't.
Jim, you're on mute.
Jim, you're on mute.
If I remember, Val, it was 53.
There we go. It is 53 Ford Transits and 5 Starcraft All-Stars that have capability of holding 6 wheelchair positions.
Okay, that's good. And those would be...
Thanks, Jim.
Those would be, the transits would likely be with Braun lifts, or they'll be heavy-duty lifts, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
Okay, well, I'm not a car guy, so other than I drive one. So are those diesel? Are they unleaded?
You all...
They're all gasoline.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all gasoline.
Okay.
They, Josh, in my experience, they have to be a heavy-duty vehicle too, with a heavy-duty frame, and the lift weighs thousands of pounds in the back of it too. So,
And I understand, and I also know that there's a whole area of transit vehicles that I don't know about, so I just wanted to inquire as to what those were. So thank you for that.
all right, may I continue this thread right here, and I go back to, I don't have my glasses on. Oh. Your operations fella, James, is that?
James Radford?
John Pettigrew?
No, Josh, I'm sorry.
John.
John, I don't see that well.
Good morning, Vince.
Hello, John. My question comes now with the USERV, which I understand they're subcontractors with their own vehicles, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and they're overseen by, who actually manages that? Does the First Transit people, or does USERV do that?
It'll be the First Transit.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Russ. Please jump in if you want.
Sure. First Transit will be having oversight of the USERV, our subcontract with USERV.
Okay, and then the vehicles as well, I'm certain that they're, all checked out regularly and so on and so forth, correct?
That's correct. They'll be subject to the same kind of audit processes that we put our own fleet into. They will have the same as well.
Well, and they won't be kept on site, they would be kept at the driver's home, is that correct?
Yes, for the USERV fleet, they will have control of their vehicles and how they use them.
And then who does the inspections on those?
USERV has their own inspection process, but we will also be doing quality control of our own on their fleet as a good check and balance.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have for now. I would like to ask a question of Mr. Canvas. And I understand that your company will be operating 13 new Tauruses, is that correct?
Yes, somewhere between 12 and 15 new Tauruses, that's correct.
Okay, and the numbers that y'all would carry with 30% would roughly be about 175 a day. Is that sound reasonable?
It does.
Okay, and are they dedicated drivers to those vehicles? Do they lease the vehicle, or tell me how that works, the driver?
The drivers are independent contractors, but each driver is a dedicated driver towards the PSTA ADA Paratransit Services.
Okay, good. That's all I need to know. Thank you. Any more questions? Do we have a motion?
So I'll make a motion that the PSTA approve the contract with First Transit as well as Bay Area Metro for the amounts of 101 million and 12 million, not to exceed those numbers.
Second?
Yes, I second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Thank you all. Thank you all for your hard work. And I mean, this was a very difficult and nimble, it was done nimbly, in my opinion, from our enthusiastic Al, who's the kingpin here. And, but thank you all. Next.
Al doesn't get to go away. He's
What are my notes here?
That's a massive contract.
Yeah.
It is.
Massive.
Al Burns, you're back
Not all
up.
at once, though.
You're back up again for the transit advertising contract modification. Go ahead, Al.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm looking forward on the website for that, and I don't see it there. So I apologize, sir.
Hey, Lou, maybe just show them all. Yeah, like that. That's good. If we caught Al off guard.
Al, I've got your back if you can't find it.
I got it here, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Al Burns, Director of Procurement. This morning, I'm bringing before you an action item that's a revenue-generating action item that I might want to add. It's to approve a contract modification for First Transit advertising with Vector Media Transit LLC. Now, I just want to make sure that there's two distinct differences. This marketing or this advertising contract is for our buses, the nice wraps that you see that sometimes has attorneys on the side of the buses. That is this contract that I'm bringing before you this morning. We've used Vector Media ever since 2015. Since 2015, they have generated over $2,700,000 worth of revenue for the agency. In the past, the revenue we received from this contract, we received 2 checks a year for this. However, during the pandemic, Vector Media reached out to us, PSTA, and saying, "Hey, we're having a hard time making that one lump sum payment, and it's relatively substantial every 6 months." So what they asked is they said, "Hey, PSTA, can we make monthly payments to you?" So we looked at the contract, we looked at the language that was in the contract, We what we have done, we have drafted an amendment to the contract, which allows, Vector Media to make monthly payments in the amount of $54,166.67. There is no adjustment. It doesn't, that is, if you add it up over 12 years, that is the same amount that we would have normally received every year. Additionally, interior advertising was incorporated. Ms. Whitney Fox, our our communications and marketing director, felt that, hey, there's an opportunity for us to generate additional revenue by doing advertising in the interior cards of the bus. So the additional interior cards has the same revenue share as the exterior of the bus, which is where PSTA gets 65% of the contractor's gross revenue. The fiscal impact of this is we will, from September 1st, 2020 to October 31st, 2021, like I said before, we will be getting a check for approximately $54,000. This revenue will be included in our operating budget. So, Mr. Chair, I bring before you again is to approve a contract modification for transit advertising with Vector Media Transit LLC. If there's any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the contract modification for the transit advertising with Vector Media Transit LLC.
I'll support the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you, Al.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, next we got Henry and Al on bulk fluids. Woo-hoo. Would you begin your presentation, either Henry or Al?
Yes, I'll start off. Good morning, Henry Lukasik, Director of Maintenance. This is a action item to approve a one-year contract and one-year option for bulk fluids is for our vehicle fleet. Just for your information, this is not fuel. This is all the other fluids such as motor oils and antifreezes that go into our fleet and service vehicles. And Al, if you want to wrap up the procurement side.
Thank you, Henry. Like Henry said, these are the bulk fluids for the vehicles. In late December, we released an IFB that was in compliance with PSTA's procurement policies and procedures. We posted it on DemandStar and on our website. In January 26th, we received 3 bids. One from Cummins Engine Incorporated, Mansfield Oil Company of Gainesville, and Palmdale Oil Company. After a responsibility check, Palmdale Oil Company was determined to have the capacity for work and is therefore eligible for award. If you look down at inside, you'll see a table. We did a market comparison to see exactly, what the prices were to make sure that they are fair and reasonable. The fiscal impact for this is this item has been budgeted and is part of the approved FY21 budget. Once again, Mr. Chair, the recommendation is recommend approval of a one-year contract with a one-year option for bulk fluids with Palmdale Oil Company for a total contract amount not to exceed $546,000 and authorize the CEO to exercise the one-year option. If there's any questions, Henry or I will be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Al, and thank you, Henry. Have we any questions, board?
Hearing no questions, I will make a motion to approve the one-year contract with Palmdale Oil Company, not to exceed $546,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you all. All right. Next, we have monthly reports. Do we have anything on monthly reports?
Debbie will
Thank you. Yes, I got a text from Julie Lupus that the power went out in her parking garage and she's trapped in there.
Oh my God.
I would be very happy to handle the monthly report. We're at the end of the first quarter, and one of the things that affects our results every single month, especially during the first quarter and on usually into January, is our property tax. So when we take a look at our surplus of 36.5 million compared to a budget of 21.5 million, the big variance of 15 million relates to property tax. So as you recall, last month, I came in with a sorrowful look saying we're below budget, but don't worry, we're going to make it up in the next month, and we did. So we've made it up on the revenue side. We also had, and we'll see that starting to stabilize in January. When we look at the expense side, you can see we are under budget in just about every single category. The only category, well, one of the big categories that went over budget was the timing of a fee that we pay on the property tax collection. If we take a look at it on a year-to-date basis, again, we are looking at about a $8.4 million variance to budget, again, being driven by the property taxes. I've got a sneak peek. We're actually meeting this afternoon on the numbers for January, but when I took a sneak peek, we are doing very well in January. We have an annual anticipated surplus of about 1.9 million. We are exceeding that already through the month of January. So I'm looking forward to continued cost containments. And as Al said, we do have revenue contracts out there. And what he didn't say was with Vector Media, because we have a good partnership, we were actually getting paid or being willing to be paid. Other transit agencies in the Florida area were getting absolutely nothing. And Vector's not only doing well, but outperforming their contract by about $90,000 year to date. So that's helping us as well, and why partnerships are so important in relationship building. So, but are there any questions on the financials to date?
Especially if you like lawyer ads from Morgan & Morgan.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions on this?
No, Mr. Chair.
Committee? Okay, thank you. We'll go on to quarterly reports. That would be Debbie and Michael.
Yeah, I think I'll turn it over to Michael first.
Yeah.
Mike, you're on mute.
Good morning, sorry about that. So currently, as of December 31st, 2020, we have approximately $84 million invested. Most of that's invested in accounts and CDs with Bank United, and a little bit is with Citibank to pay our FSA claims and our health insurance claims as they come due. So if we look now at our quarterly reserves report at the breakdown of that $84 million, approximately 38 million of that is restricted at the board's discretion. That covers 2 months operating reserve in the amount of 14.2 million, estimated self-insurance reserves 3.8 million, and capital reserves of approximately 20 million. The remainder of that 45.8 million is to be used to pay current year's expenses. Most of that is due to the property taxes Debbie mentioned that we normally received earlier in the year. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, I have a question, Vince.
Go ahead.
It's nice to see that we have a balance of a lot of money in investment accounts and savings accounts. Do we have one person here at PSTA who manages those investments? That's you, Michael?
Yeah, that's me, yes.
And
yes.
I know it's probably a mute question because interest rates and investments are very insignificant almost now, but what kind of rates do we get on an $80 million account?
The rates are all listed on the investment report, But yeah, the rates have been declining. The last two CDs that we bid out, we're only getting 25 basis points or 0.25% interest on those CDs, the one-year CDs at $5 million each. So the rates have been steadily declining over the last year. We still have some older CDs that are earning slightly higher rates, 0.73%. And then we also earn earnings credit. We're still earning 0.75% earnings credit against our banking fees as well on some of our other accounts.
And those are all short term, so that in the next 3 or 4 months, if we see rates double, we might be able to make changes?
Yeah, all the money in the savings accounts is liquid. The CDs are all one-year CDs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more?
Well, I'm sorry. Sorry, Commissioner.
Go ahead, Debbie, go ahead.
We have several other reports in the packet for you on the quarterly report. We do have a fuel report. We're averaging at about $1.44 per gallon on diesel as compared to our budget of $1.50. We are seeing fuel prices increase, so we'll be looking at that as we're going through the budget process. I have the ability to lock in going out on diesel fuel. One of the things that I'll be looking to do is have the ability to lock in on gasoline. So we'll be taking a look at his amendment to the contract on that with, and Hart has that contract as a consortium. The other ones in the packet are our capital budget versus actual report. And usually when we see that in there, and there's a detail on every single project that we do, but overall, we're usually under budget in capital. For the first quarter, we are over budget because of the timing of the receipt of the electric buses and the trolleys that'll be put out on the road. So that's good news there that we've got new vehicles coming in. And the last report in the package is your health insurance update. And we're still seeing that the majority of our employees are in our base plan, with about 336 employees in that plan. The next highest plan is our high deductible plan with about 145 employees. So that is staying fairly steady. We're seeing that the cost per claim are going up a little bit from where we were at the end of last quarter. And I would say that's to be expected because now the elective surgeries are starting to happen, which of course were put on hold during the height of the pandemic. But overall, we're doing well. We do have a couple high claims. I want the board to understand, especially our new members, we have a stop loss. So anything over 125,000, we do not have to pay. That the Cigna, who's our insurance company, absorbs that. That of course is taken a look at when we go for renewal time, which we renew every year and take a look at this because it is such a large contract. So we do have a couple high claims out there. During the course of this pandemic and the course of this first quarter, that didn't stop our benefits department from putting on some good competition. So we had a holiday competition on walking and collecting steps. I think I failed at that and gained weight during the holiday, but everybody else managed to lose weight. But it was an excellent thing. We had a significant number of employees participating in that, especially since we've now opened up the Fitbit program to all of the plans. So I'm very pleased with that. We also had financial wellness items go on during this time, as well as I would say just sort of mindfulness calendars and different things to help us stay a little less stressful. So we're still moving forward on everything related to wellness. And it'll usually be somewhere between May and July that I'll come back to the board with more information on renewal or no renewal of our health insurance contract. Any questions on the reports?
Go ahead, Mr. Schulman.
Thank you, Debbie. Did have a question about the health insurance. So the 2021 numbers are the new enrollment for this calendar year. That's correct?
Yes. Well, let's see. That starts as of January 1st, but we enroll in October 1st. So we go on an October 1st basis, with our open enrollment being in the summer. So yes, these are the numbers for this fiscal year.
Okay, I was, prior to this, I was a little concerned that with the coronavirus, that we may have seen more employees shift back from the high deductible plan to the buy-up plan, over their own concern of cost for potential care. So it's interesting to see that it really didn't change at all from change nominally from one year to the next. Along the coronavirus lines, and I just don't know, is there support from other sources to help pay for healthcare? Is there government funds available for unexpected healthcare costs for employees or anything like that exists?
That's an excellent question that I'll have to do some research on for you. Right now, it's like I've had, and I know other people on this call of employees, just out of an abundance of caution, we've had like the coronavirus tests done, and it's at no cost to the employee. So I will have to go into a deeper dive as to see what else is available outside of our health insurance. I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. No other questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank both of you, Debbie and Michael, with your new beard. Appreciate you guys, and thank you so much. We'll move on to Mr. Miller.
The ridership report is in your packet. On February 7th, just a week ago, we increased service again, not significantly, but we're essentially almost back to normal service on all of our routes from a year ago before the pandemic, except that all services still end at 10 p.m. at night. Prior to the pandemic, our normal service, we do have, especially the tourist routes along the beach, they go longer. They used to go past midnight, but right now every service ends at 10. We're trying, as the planning committee saw last month, we are trying a strategy because we have noticed that while during the pandemic we have only max of 15 people can be on any bus at one time. And if there's more than 15, the driver will not pick you up. If it's two, and they'll say you have to wait for the next bus, which we don't like. We don't want to pass people by. So we are supplementing our highest ridership routes where we're seeing the crowds over 15 at certain times of the day with extra buses, extra service, just on the highest ridership routes in the peak periods. We're using the savings of not running all the service for the first quarter of the year, or the first almost half of the year, to fund it for the remainder of this year. Hopefully the vaccines will get out and get better, and we will not have to keep running that extra service, and we can go back to front door boarding and everything, and it'll get back to normal. But for now, I think that will help our customers and reduce the number of pass-bys, which is increasing our complaints. The other thing which I think is interesting in the data that we see is that we are seeing an increase in our security incidents. Now, luckily, not the severe incidents are way down. And maybe that's because of the shields, the safety shields that we bought for the buses. The total number of incidents, especially with operators, is way up because we record all of the arguments that bus drivers get with people wearing masks, asking people to wear a mask, which, if you may have noticed, that the Biden administration, almost one of the first things that they did was require masks, require us to require masks on all airplanes, and all transportation was under that requirement. So that is now a federal law that you have to wear masks. We have a relatively low number of people complaining about it and arguing about it, but that does happen sometimes, and then so we record it as an incident. So we try to get our operators to report everything, and that is up 41% this year. It's almost all mask related, but they are doing a great job of trying to keep everybody safe. So with that, Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
Okay, any questions? Okay.
Yeah, Brad, with this limited riders on each bus at a time, do we have a lot of occurrences where we pass people that are standing waiting on the bus?
on about 4 or 5 of our highest ridership routes, that does happen in the rush hour, in the peak period. You know, so that would be the the bus that goes up and on US 19, the Central Avenue trolley, the Route 18, which goes up Seminole Boulevard to Clearwater, or various highest ridership routes. That's happening, so we're adding extra buses. That just started on February 7th, so it's too early to tell whether that's getting rid of all the pass-bys, but hopefully it will.
I just kind of wonder what we were doing to prevent those people that were standing there and the bus drives by them from being very upset with PSTA and not understanding the reason as to why that was occurring.
Well, right, I mean, there's signage that says, and the driver is instructed to stop and say, I'm sorry, I can't pick you up, I'm full, you know. But, and they're always, and we have had customers call, you can call, and we'll send another, we've always been sending another bus out, but that takes a little time. And so this way, the extra buses are just out there already, and they can see them on the schedule. It's better for the customer. In major cases, of course, we extended our late night Uber partnership for workers who, because of our schedule or because of crowding, they couldn't get a reliable trip to work. They can qualify for an Uber ride, a ride to and from their job if the bus system can't work for them right now during the pandemic. We worked that out. So we have that I think about 40 some people a day are doing that too. So we've tried to make some options for people so they don't get passed by. Yeah.
Oh, good, thank you.
Any other questions? I have one quick one for you, Mr. Miller. And it looks like on the access, like the 4th line down, access paratransit client trips, that's what we used to call DART. Is that not correct?
Yes, we are officially retiring the name, well, we're retiring Care Ride,
Right.
and we're retiring DART as a concept. And the new name for all of these services is called Access, PSTA Access.
And that's how the new vehicles will read as well. Is that correct?
That's right, that's right. It'll be, you'll see PSTA Access on the side of the vehicles. And, yeah.
All righty. If there's no more business to do, this meeting is adjourned.
Excellent.
Fun with gavels.
I like it.
I know.
Thank you, Boo.
Pat Gerard said that she didn't use a gavel, but then we put it out there and.
Well, good
I
job,
thought she used it.
Chairman.
Oh, thank you.
Vince, well done.
Just don't ever miss a meeting.